February time, when we have the most people swimming in the water in South Africa during our holidays. But the fact is, attacks and interactions are extremely rare. The sharks are far more interested in things like skates, rays, bottom-dwelling reef fishes, and other smaller species of sharks, not as humans swimming at the surface. So the results from Mossel Bay were quite interesting. What we found by tracking the sharks were that there were basically two areas that they would utilize. One area was Hermanus, which is basically a beach reefy area. And the sharks would patrol up and down here, and then they would move directly towards Seal Islands, where the Cape Fur seals are, and they would hunt. And after their hunts, they would move back into the Hermanus area and patrol up and down there. These movements coincided with dawn and dusk. They're the best hours for a shark to hunt. The reason being is that they can see the seals at the surface, just about enough light to do that, but the seals can't see down enough to see the sharks coming from below. So if we look at this map here, this area is Hermanus all the way along the top, and this area along the bottom is Seal Islands. The shaded, that's your nighttime, and that's your daytime. And the track is where the shark is. So it would start at Hermanus, then it would move to Seal Islands at dusk, just to start and get dark, and then the little circles here are when it fed on seals. So that night, the shark killed 2 seals. Then it went back to Hermanus, and at dawn, returned to Seal Islands and killed another seal. So it ate 3 seals in a very short space of time. Then it didn't return to Seal Island. It stayed in Hermanus for a number of days before returning to Seal Islands to hunt at dawn. And then at dusk, dawn, and then at the next dusk, it killed a seal again. And then it didn't return to the islands. So it seems that the sharks are only utilizing the island areas when they're hungry, when they're trying to feed. For the rest of their time, they'll spend in an area away from the Seal Islands, just resting and patrolling up and down. What we also found was that larger sharks would utilize a set area of the island to hunt. So this is one of the bigger sharks' hunting tracks. You see, it's all in one spot. Offshore of the island is this direction. The seals have to move offshore to feed. So the seals will move off that way and come back. The sharks, the bigger sharks, seem to know exactly where this area is, and they can lie in wait and ambush them. Smaller sharks, however, were less efficient in their hunting tactics. They would swim all the way around the island, they would go backwards and forwards, still looking for seals, but they're less efficient at doing it. They haven't learned as much of the big ones as how to hunt the seals. So it does seem that larger sharks are more efficient in their activity areas. They use smaller areas, and the smaller ones, which are still learning, will use bigger areas and take a bit longer to hunt the seals. Now, home range analysis, this is all of the track sharks in Mossel Bay. But what we can do, all of these pinpoints are shark tracks, and the different colours are different sharks. But what we can do with this data is analyse a home range for the sharks. Now, there's 2 types of home range. The first is a minimum convex polygon, and what that basically is a home range of the whole outside area that the sharks are utilising. So in Mossel Bay, it was most of the bay that the sharks were utilising. And we do something called a kernel analysis. This basically focuses down the area of the shark's utilisation and finds core habitat use areas for the sharks. So as you can see, the island is right here and Hermanus is here. So the 2 core areas were here. The main focus of the sharks' time was spent in the Hermanus area, resting between the hunts. There was also another couple of reef areas where the sharks were also utilising. One off the river mouth of Kleinbrack River and one off the Hoekbrack River mouth as well. So there were a few different areas that the sharks were utilising in Mossel Bay. With this kind of data, what you can say is this is a protected species. If you want to protect it, you should protect these core areas for the great white sharks. Now in Gansbaai, like I said, we've only got the 2 sharks so far, so we're still learning every day we go out. But we have had some interesting tracks so far. This is our big shark. She's called Sarika, after one of the MCM scientists that helped tag the shark with us. And so far what we found is that she's utilising the shallow areas, known as Jabir's Dam, this area. she'll move up and down. There's El Corazon with a river mouth here, a very popular swimming beach right here. And she has been very shallow up and down this area. And she did move towards Dyer Island, which is right here, but she didn't hunt, she turned back. So as of yet, neither of our sharks have started to hunt, but we can still run a few analysis on the home range of them. The minimum convex polygon for this shark is basically the entire shallow area up to Dyer Island, and the core areas she's using are pretty close to the beaches in the reefy areas. That's where she's hung around so far, and as we go on more, the study will get more intense and we'll have more and more sharks. The overall aim is to say that, like I said, we have a protected species, it's utilising this much of the bay, and so therefore this much of the bay should be protected for them. At the moment around Dyer Island and Giza Rock, there is a great white shark sanctuary, but it's very small. As you can see from these tracks, the sharks are using a far wider range than what that sanctuary says. Well, I think that's just about it from me. Thank you very much for coming, and I have time for questions now, so you can go ahead and ask your questions.
I have a question, Ollie.
Okay.
So if pet tags are this great satellite thing that all you need to do is deploy it and it just tells you everything in a matter of like 3 months, why don't we just get 20 pet tags and just put them on 20 sharks? Or
Okay.
spot tags? Why don't we just...
The problem with the satellite tags is that they are very expensive. You're looking at about maybe $5,000 per tag. The other problem with the pet tags is that they are prone to failing or malfunctioning and coming up early. It's quite a big piece of equipment to stay on a shark, and the sharks are going down to depths of 1,000 meters or so, sometimes even more. Quite a lot of those tags don't make it, so therefore you're going to increase your cost by about 50%. So then you're going to look at $8,000 for each tag's worth of data you're going to get, which makes it very expensive to use. And also in terms of the fine scale movements of the sharks, the areas within our base here in South Africa, we need to look at it in more detail. Those pat tag tracks aren't as accurate in terms of close-up looking as the fine scale acoustic tags that we're using right now.